Have you ever wondered if you could sell without being on social media? I get it. Social media can feel never-ending, time-consuming, and a big distraction. So do you need it or not so much? Find out in today's episode. Welcome to the Lou Blakely Show. You're in the right place if you're a service provider who is ready to transition into a more freedom-based business model with digital products. In this podcast, I share with you a unique combination of launch strategy, energetics, and mindset to create true, long-lasting success. It's time to ditch the burnout for good, create the business that you truly want, and share it with the world. Let's get started. Welcome to the latest episode of the Lou Blakely Show, the podcast where you'll learn how to use strategy, mindset, and your own energetic alignment to create your dream online business. Today I'm talking about all things social media. Specifically, is it possible to launch your online course, membership, group coaching program, or other digital product without using social media? So right now, social media might be something that you love and that you're all over, and in which case this episode probably isn't for you because, you've got better things to do with your time. However, I've noticed a lot of people really struggling with social media. It doesn't come naturally to many people. Many of us don't want to be influencers. And, maybe you're only there because you think you have to be because you've got an online business and you're trying to launch. So social media can be an incredibly distracting place, I know. And you'd probably rather be spending your time elsewhere doing the things you love. I hear you. And this is all valid. I mean, can you imagine the time savings that you would gain back into your life if you weren't on there? I mean, there's definitely some downsides of social media, right? It can impact how you feel about yourself and your mental health. It feels like it's never-ending, like this never-ending cycle of having to show up and produce content, and that pressure can sometimes get a little too much. Not to mention that you're building on someone else's platform. You don't own it. So Mark Zuckerberg actually owns a big chunk of it, right? So things can change at any time when we actually have no control, whereas we could be building somewhere else that we do actually own. The other thing with social media is it's incredibly time consuming. Like I said before, imagine if we could get that time back. It also has a pretty short shelf life. Like when you post something on social media, it depends what platform, but it can disappear quite quickly. It can be a busy, distracting place and it steals your attention away. And also, some posts that used to do really well just don't work anymore. Like the reach has definitely declined on some platforms again over time. So now it is a more crowded place. But there's also some upsides to social media, right? Obviously, it can be very good for business and it's free. Well, at times not free. But to use these platforms, it is free unless we're looking at advertising. And you can create amazing connections on social media and build relationships. And I have to say, for me, that has been the biggest upside of social media when it comes to my business. But the question is, can you launch without social media? And my answer to this is, it really depends. Yes, you can, but there's things that you've got to consider. So that's what I'm going to cover in this episode. I'm going to cover all of it, like every angle that you can look at. And if you are seriously considering dropping social media, then definitely keep listening. So I think the first thing to actually consider is using social media in your launch even going to be effective for you right now? So if you're already on social media and you're planning on using it in your upcoming launch, and maybe you don't want to, let's talk about a few things. So social media can be a very effective tool when it comes to launching your online course. There is no doubt about that. It's generally the place that people do have an audience. And, I work with a lot of people who do have quite small audiences. And if they do have any audience, it is normally on social media more so than an email list. So it's probably the only option for many people at the start. Like you have no audience anywhere else that you can promote to. So In that case, yes, we should be using it. But I also want you to consider, what is your strategy for social media during your launch? Social media is a very effective part of your launch strategy if there is a strategy or a plan to what you're actually doing on social media. It's not just a show up and sell situation. There's things to consider, like what stage of the launch are you in? Are you in your runway, pre-launch, or open cart? The type of activity that you should be putting out on social media at each of these times is going to be different if you have a clear launch strategy that includes social media. It's not just a matter of showing up and sharing your offer every day that your cart is open. It's not going to work, and you're probably better off putting your effort elsewhere if that is what you're planning on doing. I also want you to consider if you're already active on social media, like are you regularly posting, and that might only be once a week, but are you active on social media? Have you been posting in the past? Because what I really don't think you should do is just show up when you're in your launch and, you're opening the cart and you've got something to sell, and show up and expect to tell people about your offer and then expect sales as a result of that. And when it comes to thinking about whether we're going to use social media for a launch, like how big is your audience? Like anything, it's a numbers game. The more people you have in your audience, the more likely you're going to get a portion of those people actually purchasing from you. So if you have a very, very small social media following and you're doing your first launch, like say you have 100 people following you and you haven't been on social media for that long and you're wondering, should I actually put that much effort into it? Launches, they grow your audience if they're done correctly, but if they're not, you just can't expect to show up at that time and post that you've got an offer and out of 100 people get anyone buying. Like, it's probably not going to happen. I definitely suggest that you focus on the other things in a launch, like a launch event and building your email list as a priority over showing up on social media. So there does need to be consideration, like how big is your audience, in order to decide whether you're going to include it in your launch plan. Sales will most likely come from your email list more so than social media, but social media can also be a very good way to get people onto that email list. And if you're flat out doing your first launch, like your first launch ever, your social media game, like I say, game as in your skill, your ability to show up and share really impactful posts is not going to be perfect because you've never done this before. You're doing a lot of things at once, and quite likely you are thinking about having to build the product as well. Like, I'm all about the pre-sale, but that's on your mind, right? Like, you've got a lot of balls in the air. You're creating your sales page for the first time. You're writing your launch emails, all of that kind of thing. So you don't necessarily have the bandwidth to show up and really kill it when it comes to social media. Your first launch is never going to be perfect, right? So sometimes it may be a bit hit and miss with social media, and that's okay. But I definitely do not want you to rely on social media solely, whether this is your first launch, your 10th, your 20th, whatever. As part of your launch strategy, always be building your email list, run a launch event, and sell to those people. And then you can simply use social media as a way to get people there. But what if you really, really despise social media? Then is it going to hurt your results? So the thing that really grinds my gears in the online marketing world is that social media is often talked about and treated like it is the only way. And I mean, you only have to log on to Instagram, and the way people are teaching social media on there is like, this is the be all and end all. Like, this is how you grow an online business, is purely on Instagram or purely on, well, actually it's pretty much Instagram or TikTok these days, I think. And that is so not true. So it's really important to have a strategy that covers more than one platform. And by that, I don't mean that you should be on 4, 5 different social media platforms. That's not what I mean at all. What I do mean is that social media is actually only one piece of your marketing funnel. So what we need when we look at our marketing funnel is we need to cover 3 main areas, which are awareness, and then traffic, and then conversion. So when it comes to awareness, that is really where social media comes into play. So that can be organic social media, which means that it's free posting, like you're posting just on the platform by creating content. Or alternatively, you can also use social media in the form of paid advertising, like Facebook ads, Instagram ads, TikTok ads, that kind of thing. You can also gain awareness through other ways, and one of those ways is SEO, which is search engine optimization. You can also create awareness through a podcast like this one. So there are ways to get awareness. Another one is Pinterest, right, which is kind of like on that cusp between social media and a search engine as well. Then the next phase is we need traffic to come to our owned assets. So that's like our website, our blogs, that kind of thing. So sometimes social media can also create traffic to those places, and ads obviously are really great for traffic as well. But SEO as well is very good here, and also Pinterest again. So you can see how social media really fits into the awareness and then also the traffic part of that marketing funnel. But when it comes to conversion, these people are usually already in your world. They are most likely on your email list, and they have come there by any of those means that I just mentioned. And this is where email marketing really comes into play. And you are likely to get most of your sales from email marketing if you have used those more top of funnel activities to actually get people there in the first place. So social media is only one part of that marketing mix. And as you will have heard, there are alternatives to just constantly posting on social media, right? There's ads, there's search engine optimization, there's having a podcast, and then there's Pinterest. But I hope that makes you start to realize that there's way more to online marketing than social media, and there's way more to actually long-term launch success than just social media. And I feel like we are continuously in this bubble where we think that social media is the center of the universe, and it's not, but it pulls us and it's addictive. That is the way they've designed these apps. So having that knowledge that it's only one part of the process hopefully allows you to kind of detach from it a little bit, because I feel like it can be very all-encompassing and feels like it's the only way, okay? So it is part of the marketing mix. That is it. And with that in mind, I really want you to ask yourself, like, how much time and effort am I actually spending on social media, and am I ignoring other areas? And that's a very good question to be asking yourself, no matter what you're selling, no matter what you're launching. It doesn't matter. Now, you might be thinking to yourself that, social media is where people sell. I see people on there selling every day, and 100% it works, right? Especially for, I would say, coaching programs and things that are constantly available. So maybe you do one-on-one private coaching, maybe you sell your services, like you do done for you services, then you can be actually selling on social media every single day, and you'll likely get clients from it. But I think in the open and close cart, you are more likely to get those sales from your warm audience, and those people are going to be on your email list if you have got that sales funnel, that marketing funnel set up to be like that. But I just want to touch on that as well, because there's also different types of launches. So there's a school of thought that you can only launch once every 3 months. So that's 4 times a year. And I quite often having clients ask me about this, like, I can't launch for how many months, or how much time should I leave between launches? That's a really common question that I get. And my answer is that there's actually different types of launches that you can run throughout the year. They don't have to be quarterly. You can run ads. You can run launches more often than you think, but you do need to vary up how you change it. So you can do a big public launch where you'll most likely be very present and visible on social media. But you can also do little secret launches where it's only going out to your email list. Or you can actually do a launch that's ads only, where you just say you're running a webinar, for example, you run ads specifically to the webinar, and then a bunch of people join, and then you sell specifically just to those people. So you're not actually selling the same thing over and over and over again to your existing audience. You're only selling to new people. So there are lots of options here. I have run lots of what I like to call lazy launches, little secret launches that are just to my email list, where you just open and close the doors for a few days, where you only put the offer out to them, and those are that's your hottest audience, right? A few years ago, I actually ran an offer, a lazy launch, as I like to call them, and I'm actually doing an episode on this next week, so stay tuned for that. But I ran a closing down sale for my SEO course, and I ran it at Black Friday. It was just to my email list. I had some really cool bonuses, and I decided that I was not going to share it on social media at all. I just chose to. I didn't really want to be on social media that weekend, and social media is very crowded on Black Friday as well. But the really funny thing happened is that other people actually started sharing about the offer on Black Friday for me, because it was an insane offer. So I just thought that was really interesting, actually, that I decided I wasn't going to share it, but other people started to share it anyway, which they did the work for me, which is great. That won't always happen, but just know there are other ways to launch. I will also often recommend these types of lazy launches or email-only launches to my clients, depending on certain situations. So obviously you've got to have an email list for this, and it's definitely not something I recommend doing every single launch. It is a really great launching option, though, some of the time, not all of the time. So if you want to know more about that as a launching option, it sounds really good. Of course it does. It's called the lazy launch. I love it. It's actually my favorite way to launch. Then I do recommend tuning in to the episode coming out next week. On the contrary, though, I would never, ever, ever recommend a social media only launch. So I'm recommending you can do an email only launch at times, but I never, ever, ever recommend a social media only launch. And that's because I believe that the people on there are not hot enough. They're not part of your super warm audience. Like, sure, you can have some people on there, and again, this is all relative to the size of your audience. But if you're not someone that shows up consistently every single day and just loves social media and loves that world, then those people are not your hot audience. So you might be thinking, well, Lou, you haven't really answered the question, can you launch an online course without social media? And as you may have heard, it's nuanced, right? But you definitely can launch without social media. Now, never using social media again would be an extremely bold choice to make, but it is possible if you are able to generate that awareness and traffic from elsewhere. If this is the road you want to go down, then SEO, search engine optimization, is going to become a very big focus for you, which means writing content in the way of blogs and then ranking them in the search engines. Your email list is also going to become very, 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 very important, but really it should be anyway. So someone who has done this is Leonie Dawson. You may have heard of her. She is an Australian. She lives in Australia. She is quite well known in the online marketing world. So if you want to go down this road of completely ditching social media altogether, then I suggest you check her out, as she talks about it quite a lot. So she is a self-made multimillionaire. She sells planners and online courses and all the things. And I actually really love that she's talked about this so openly. I feel like it's really refreshing and giving people a completely new angle. So she used to be very, very active on social media. So she has used it in the past and back in the days when it was much easier to build a following. So she already had a very large following and then had that kind of following on her email list and so forth before she actually decided to leave social media, but she completely opted out of any future use of social media a few years ago and has doubled down on alternative forms of marketing. So I just wanted to chat really about that, finding the alternative forms of marketing. Like search engine optimization takes time. So if you're launching next week, then obviously it's not going to work. Social media probably is going to be the shortest pathway to get to where you want to go, the most useful tool that you can use for free right now, and the most cost-effective but not time-effective. Okay, so if you need quick results, then social media, yes, use it. If you can spend a lot of time blogging and creating content like that way, then definitely it's an option to completely not use social media. But an alternative to thinking, I don't want to be on social media, I hate it, I'd rather spend my time elsewhere, it could be that you simply find a way to make social media more enjoyable for you. So that could be deciding on a particular platform. So everyone is obsessed with Instagram these days, but the reality is that you may feel more comfortable somewhere else. You could look at having a community on social media, such as a Facebook group, that will get you the same results, but you might feel more protected in something like that because it's your space. Like you kind of own it, even though it's not on an own platform. You have a lot more control over a Facebook group. You control who sees your post, that kind of thing. And I suggest that you also look into your human design environment, as this could give you some clues. So my human design environment is caves, and I've personally had a lot of success with using a Facebook group in the past. So, I mean, it's like a little cave, right? So check out what your human design environment is. Now, another alternative, and this is a really great one, and I guess this is like a specific strategy that you choose because it suits your lifestyle more. And that is, instead of just saying, I'm not going to use social media at all, you just go down the ad road and you don't bother with posting organically. And again, organically is like free. But you can go down the ad road where you are just opting out of doing that free posting, organic posting, and you are just running ads and they lead into your sales funnel. So you have an ads funnel set up that builds your email list and then you sell to your email list. Now, people generally don't want to pay for ads, and I totally get that. But what if you never had to worry about what to post organically? Like, time is money. So you're saving all that time to work on other things, which can be a really great option. Particularly, ads can be very powerful. Like, this strategy can be powerful if you're very time poor. So maybe you have a full-time job or you're super busy with high-paying clients. Maybe you can't outsource for whatever reason, like you can't outsource your organic social media. Or maybe you have problems with health, like your health's up and down, you can't rely on your energy from one day to the next. Maybe you're burnt out or you have some kind of illness. Then using ads as your funnel, instead of spending all of that time on social media, can really benefit you because the ads can run day or night, all the time, no matter how you feel, there's no showing up from your side. So I think the ad-only strategy could be a really good way to stay present without having to post that organic social media and feel like you're always on that content treadmill. Ads do still take work and they take skill, obviously, and that is something that I help people with in my coaching. But there's no doubt they take the pressure off you when it comes to the daily posting. And maybe that's the key to actually starting to love social media again, by taking that pressure away and knowing that you don't have to do it. You're doing it purely for the love of it. So I think I've given you quite a few solutions there, but I just wanted to give you a few tips. If you want to reduce your reliance on social media, then start focusing more on building your email list yesterday. Like, start today. Don't leave it another day without growing your email list. It is that important. And the great thing about an email list is that you own it. You own that contact list. No one else owns it. You do. Okay? You could also look at finding an alternative to create awareness. So if you think back to when I shared about that marketing funnel where we have awareness, traffic, and conversion, if you're not using social media for awareness, like free organic social media posting as awareness, then you need an alternative. And that could be SEO. As I said, that can take some time to get up and running. And you can also look at using ads to drive people into your funnel. So you need an alternative, right? If you're looking at like maybe not being on social media, then what's the alternative going to be? Because you do need something at the top of the funnel. And you can look at that ad only option, which I think is really good for some people. So thanks for joining me on this episode today. I hope it answered some of your questions around if social media is necessary to launching or not. And the answer to that is no, it's not. But what are you going to do instead? And are you in a situation where actually social media is the better option for you right now? So if you've been listening to this podcast, please take a moment to rate and review it in Apple Podcasts so that I'm able to reach more people, which will in turn allow me to be able to create even more free content for you. Thanks for listening. Have a great week, and I'll see you in the next episode. Thanks, course creators and go-getters. You're incredible, and I hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you haven't done so already, make sure you hit subscribe in your podcast app so you don't miss an episode. If you'd like to find out more about what I offer, head across to loublakely.com. See you next time.